Okay, the first two presentations I have talked about the challenges facing the tomato sector in Ghana. You may be wondering how China could make potato paste at such a low cost, despite the fact China's labor and land costs was much higher than in Ghana. Also, the potato paste has been shipped from China to Ghana for thousands of miles. So you must be wondering how that happened, how China can be so competitive. So I'm going to talk about potato cluster. So potato is different from tomato, you know. But I think the story behind that should be very similar. But China largely is cluster-based development model, both in terms of industry and agriculture development. You see one village, one product, one township, one product everywhere. So the stories should be very similar. So from this morning's presentations, we already know the industry policy now is back on the agenda. But there's still a heated debate on the role of industry policy. As Professor Daniel Roderick commented in one of his papers, the real question about industry policy is not whether it should be practiced, but how. But many of the widely cited successful case studies at the national level, even Derek mentioned the case study on Taiwan, on Korea. But the critics often cite the failure of the currently planned economy, like the centrally planned economy in former Soviet Union and China's proof that industry policy at the national level won't work. That's this major critique. In many countries, in particular the large countries, there are large regional variation. The industry policies are often at the local level. Therefore, local industry policies matter a lot. So I want to show this point using the potato case study. So I chose Anding potato cluster. Anding is in the lowest plateau of Gansu province. For those who know China, Gansu is one of the poorest provinces in China. In 1980, 78% of people live under $1 a day in that province. Now it is one of the 3 largest potato production centers in China. And the potato account for 2/3 of the cropping area. The total output is about can supply 1 kg for every Chinese. Not every Chinese is eating potato. So you think about for those who eating potato, that maybe a large proportion is from Anding. It's a small county. And the farmers generate about 60% of the income from potatoes. Now where is it located? You can see this. Here is the potato center. It's in, that's where is, I will show some pictures. You see the landscape. Now the production is serving almost all the national market, not only the local market. The most important thing for agricultural production is land. Land is a basic asset. But in this year, you can see from the landscape, the land quality is very bad. The rainfall, annual rainfall, is only 380 millimeters. It's less than 1/2 of the level of Ethiopia, less than 1/3 of the level in northern Ghana. You can think about how dry it is. And also you look at landscapes, it's very steep. During the monsoon season, only like in July and August, the rain is heavily concentrated. The rainfall often wash away the crops. But because the area was so poor, the government made huge investment to build the terrace field and irrigation facilities through 50s all the way to 1990s. So in the 50s and 60s, the government simply mobilized hundreds of thousands of people to just build the terrace field by hand. So every winter, they mobilize people to build the terrace field and river basin irrigation, water reservoirs, etc. And by the late 90s, of all the land compatible to terracing, about 94% of it has been converted to terrace, like you see on there. If you go there, you see endless of terrace field. So in 2006, IPRI organized a workshop on poverty elevation. A few of Ethiopia colleagues visited there. We had an organized field trip. They just commented, they said your natural conditions are much worse than Ethiopia. But the income level is much higher than Ethiopia. So, and one of my co-authors, even wrote a commentary in the Ethiopian newspaper and sent to us. So from after the field trip, they just say it's eye-opening experience. You just see endless terrace wherever you go. You see. So after the land quality is improved, the next most important decision is to find the comparative advantage. So what crop is more suitable for the local water and soil types? In the 60s, as part of public elevation strategy, the government introduced potato to help fight hunger because wheat yield is very low. It's about only like 100 kg per acre. Also, the yield very a lot. Sometimes during the monsoon season, the rainfall just wash away all the crop during the harvest time. So, the potato is more robust, so the government introduced that. But the farmers usually only plant a small lot for potato, because in the Chinese diet, the wheat is much more preferable to potato. So people just use potato as a second crop for dealing with the food shortage. In addition, the government had a guaranteed procurement price for wheat, but not potato. So in the 80s, the government tried to scale up the production of potato, but the farmers largely resisted. The reason that this faced some uncertainty, if we produce potato, maybe there's no market. How could we sell that? If we just produce wheat, we can still get, if there are any extra, we can get at least a guarantee from the government. What the government did is they mobilized the local village leaders, forced them, they also gave some incentive to produce potato on their own land, and also they provide some extension services. So after a few years, the neighbors observed the gains. The potato yield is much higher than wheat. Also, even the price was low, the profit more than double the wheat production. So when the neighbors observed the local leaders' demonstration fields, they start to copy them, and they will see gradually the scale up of the production process. In terms of supply, the second most important is seed. Because potato have three type of market. The first one is on the vegetable market. People eat potatoes. Secondly is for the processing, mainly for the starch. The third market is for the chips and the French fries. It's more recent phenomenon. But all these different markets require different varieties. All of the first two varieties actually mostly indigenous varieties. The Gansu Academy of Agricultural Sciences bred a very good high-yield variety for starch processing. That's the bottom one on the left. They turned out a very robust variety, have been widely adopted in this area. And the county, Andean County, tried for about 5 or 6 years, tried to breed a good variety, a local variety for vegetable market. But by the 6th year, the government funding dried up. They have to stop. But accidentally, the extension station rented the farmers' land. So they left them some variety on their land. One farm just found out one small plot. The variety, the yield was very good. He immediately talked to the previous extension agent, say, come on to see the potato. It looks so nice, and also the yield is so high. And the extension agent was so happy. They get a national certificate award for the work. But it's a farmer find out that variety after the extension station retreated. And recently, for the chips and the French fries, the variety was imported from the US. And for the potato, the biggest problem is after you plant for several years, usually there's some toxin develop, there are virus easily they're spread out. So it's very important to control virus to improve the quality. And the county government also spent a lot of money to set up breeding center now, which employs 140 engineers and technicians, and try to provide the support to make sure that the local breeding companies can produce toxin-free potato seeds. Now Andean and one of neighboring counties become the largest potato breeding centers in China. They also provided the breeding potatoes. But after many, if you look at the cropping area, the top red line, from the 90s all the way to the mid 2000, the cropping area has steadily increased. And then we all economy know by certain stage, the market will crash, because if there are more potato flood to the market, the local price may collapse. So in 2001 and 2003, there are two price crashes. The farmer basically lost money, and the local officials was very anxious, because in China, local officials' evaluation and promotions are based on local economic growth and fixed revenue growth. But if the farmers lost money, and means the local revenues will dry up. So the local officials were worried about their promotions. They was very anxious, so they decided to do a growth diagnostics. They sent some officials from Bureau of Agriculture, some officials from different townships. Say, you guys just go to different markets, national markets, also follow traders, and try to find out what are the binding constraints, what are the problems. This is what they end up, the supply chain and also the value chain. I will show you that. I get the two figures from the Bureau of Agriculture. So the supply chain is very similar to what Alice talked about. Because the production scale is very small, because that area is very remote, when traders go there, they have much larger bargaining power. They basically can determine the rent. Sometimes if the trader usually from outside, they often hire a local agent to help them collect the potatoes. After they get the potatoes, they have them transported to the big market, the wholesalers in major cities, and then go to retailers and the consumers. And after diagnostic trips, they found out the rent, how much the cost and the profit for different stages of the supply chain. For farmers, each farmer for each kg, it receive only 2 cents of profit. Even the labor cost is not included. If you include labor cost, they are losing money. And for agent, they get 1 cent per kg. You say for the outside farmers, they get most of the rent. You can see the red part. They get most of the markup. And for wholesaler, because they have large volume, they only 1 cent per kg. And then go to retailers, because the scale is a little bit smaller, they get a little bit larger profit margin. So the basic message that the outside traders were controlling the market. They get most of the rent. The farmers didn't share the rent. As a response, the local officials thought, now we need to move on to the demand side interventions. All the way from 50s to 90s to early 2000, all the inventions were largely related to supply side. Now they realize the supply side become the binding constraint. So since they have worked in several areas, the first thing is they established the trader and the producer associations. They said in order to get rid of the outside traders, we need to learn the trading skills. We need to organize by ourselves. Also, the association sent quite a few people to major cities, asked them to stay there in the major market. Just call them every day, tell what the price look like, so they know the information. Before, they all rely on the outsider traders for the information. In addition, the county subsidized the information broadcasting. If you go to the local you stay in the hotel, you turn on the TV, you see all the price information, more like stock market. All day long, they show up the major markets information. If you go to the railway station, the big monitors on top of the buildings, also showing all the price information, different markets, potato price. So the great market transparency makes it harder for traders to trade farmers. So if the trader go to villagers already know the price, so it's hard for traders to not to share the rent with them. And because the popularity of the producer and traders association, they grow very fast, from 30 members in 2003 to over 3,000 members in 1999. You see here. In addition, they started to build up the township level wholesale market. Now there are 17 wholesale markets in major townships and 60 village collection points in 2009. You see I show the map, you can see the different stage of development. If you look at the blue dot, there are very few blue dots. That was all the village collection points or wholesale market between the period 96 and 2000. The red dot means the second period, 2001, 2005, and the yellow dot, the last 4 or 5 years. You see the market is spreading out, covering almost all the areas. The next bottleneck come in, and because after price return to the normal level, more farmers start to produce potatoes. And then you face another binding constraint, that's the transportation. Because during the harvest time, the truck transportation costs go up. Also, the railways only give the county 15,000 freight cars in 2003, but they need much more. So the local government they tried to lobby to get more freight car quotas. So they visited the provincial government. Luckily, they found one deputy party secretary who used to work in the Ministry of Railway. And through connections, in 2004, they got more than double the freight cars. Immediately, they can ship most of the potatoes to the other market. The cost of railway transportation is only half of the truck transportation. Also, it's faster. So through train, the ending potato can reach the major cities like Guangzhou and Dingxi. So this picture shows the train, specialized train. The whole train is for potato to Guangzhou. They said China ending the potato capital and special train to Guangzhou. But even to get more freight car quotas, they still need even out the trains. Because you cannot have all the trains come in during the harvest time. Maybe you can only get the 2,000. You need spread out the train transportations. So the next strategy is to encourage local people to build more storages. And you see different tabs. The first up corner is very large central air conditioned storage, and the other are more medium-sized or small-sized. But the bottom one is the farmers in their land build in their land. So the government provided 2,000 yuan subsidy for each storage. In just 2 or 3 years, on average, each household owned 2 storages. So they can store 1/3 of the local production. So basically, they can extend the market period, get better price, because the potato price follow a V shape. First drops after harvest and then bounce back before the Chinese New Year. So if you can store for 2 or 3 months, the price is much better. But most the storage don't use any energy. It's more like naturally. Just because that area is very dry, it's very easy to store the potatoes. The third market is the processing. So with the more increasing supply, for some low-quality potatoes, you need to find the market. Because for valuable market, you need good-looking potatoes, also need to taste better. For some potatoes, if it looks doesn't meet the standards, people used to just throw away. That's a huge waste for farmers. And the local governments and all local business people see the opportunities. And it's very important to develop the processing sector to absorb the supply. So the government came up a series of policies. The first one is provide free land to plant processing plants. Secondly, to help the investor secure low interest rate bank loans. And thirdly, to help the investors to find stable potato supplies by working with the local rural cooperatives. So the number of processing plants increased from 0 in 2003 to 12 in 2009. Now it processes about 1/3 of total output. So you see even look at the product portfolio, it covers from starch to French fries, chips, and potato flours, and even export some to Middle East. So now let me end here. So main point I want to argue is that the local industry policies do matter to cluster development. At a different stage of development, the binding constraints may be different, which require different interventions. The only local governments have better information. and incentive to help overcoming the banding constraints and finding solutions. Let me stop here. The question is, why do the local government in China have such a strong incentive? Maybe they'll leave to the discussions. Last, I showed the picture with the president of the Potato Trader Association. Because he did so well, he was elected the National People's Congress. During the meeting, he met with Premier Wen Jiabao twice. So you see there's some reward for the entrepreneurship. And the local public secretary, county public, was promoted to the prefecture level city party secretary because of the performance. So in China, I think the local government incentive are compatible with their performance. So I think it's something we don't observe that in some other countries. Thank you.